Okay, baby, strip. Perfect lips curved into an insolent smirk. Eyes black as night gleamed in the dim light. I'm not doing that. The young blonde straightened. His fingers clenched into fists. Oh yes, you will, sweetheart. The honeyed whisper slid across his skin. What are you so afraid of? I don't bite. Water dripped from black hair onto tattooed shoulders. Sculpted abs, dark skin glistening. 6'5" of pure muscle. The air was thick with steam, and something electric. Or is the fearless Navy SEAL afraid of a naked man? Felix's jaw tightened. Green eyes met black. A second full of challenge. I wasn't hired to indulge your whims. Right, your job is my safety, baby. The man stepped closer. Too close. A finger traced Felix's collar, slowly leaving a wet trail. I'm drunk, and I might slip. Challenge. Felix stepped back, hit the wall, trapped. You're such an asshole. He met that mocking gaze. Then lie down. You'll shower tomorrow. Kit stood so close Felix could see golden sparks in those dark eyes. Then he stepped back. Slowly, deliberately. As you wish, Felix. The way he said his name made something clench low in his belly. Felix turned and left, not showing anything. Behind him, quiet laughter, victorious. Then the sound of running water. Felix leaned against the wall and exhaled. His hands trembled, heart pounding. He'd cursed himself 100 times for agreeing to guard this social media darling. This was his last chance to prove he could still do the job, that getting fired wasn't the end, that PTSD didn't make him unfit. Damian Holt had warned him. The model was difficult. Not a single bodyguard had lasted more than 3 months. No surprise there. Sweet demon. 10 million Instagram followers. Had started provoking from day one. Seducing. Playing. And judging by Felix's racing heart, the game had only just begun. Chapter 1. The Interview. 3 weeks earlier. Mr. Thorn! Damian Holt rose, extending his hand. Early 40s, gray at the temples. Smile that didn't reach his cold eyes. Impressive resume. Military background. VIP protection training. Damian studied him. Why did you leave? Family reasons. I'm helping my sister with college. Damian's eyes narrowed slightly, then he nodded. Good. I need someone with self-control. My client is special. I've researched him. There won't be a problem. Everyone says that. Damian leaned back. Kit, sweet demon, is one of the world's most popular influencers. Beautiful, charismatic, and he will test every boundary you have. Are you married? No. Felix clenched his jaw. Does it matter? Kit is versatile, equally good at seducing men and women. Trust me, I've seen him work. He's not my type. Damian smirked. We'll see. He pulled out a folder. 6-month contract, $15,000 a month. Housing provided. You're with him 24/7. $15,000, enough to help Emma pay off her debts. Where do I sign? One condition. If you try anything with him, you're fired. Clear. Felix signed. The door burst open. Dummy, baby. You won't believe. The voice cut off. Felix turned and forgot how to breathe. Black hair, tousled and damp. Dark skin, white t-shirt hugging his torso. Broad shoulders. Sunglasses revealing black eyes lined with eyeliner. Dangerously beautiful. Kit removed his glasses. His gaze slid over Felix. Unhurried, bold, his lips curved. Wow. Dammy, good job. He's stunning. This is Felix Thorn, your new bodyguard. Kit stopped close, tilted his head back. Tall, broad, eyes like an avenging angel. He turned to Damian. Did you pick someone this handsome so I wouldn't bail? Felix stood, their chests dangerously close. Pleased to meet you. Oh, mutual. Kit circled around, openly appraising him. Tell me, soldier, what's included in your contract? Any private services? Kit, Damian's warning tone. Felix looked straight into those mocking eyes and, my job is to ensure your safety. Everything else isn't in the contract. Pity. Something flashed in Kit's gaze. Well, Dami, looks like you found me a nanny with character. He headed for the exit. Let's see how long he lasts. Damian smiled. Welcome to the family. Felix nodded. He had to endure 6 months. Chapter 2. First day. The elevator rose to the top floor, opening directly into the penthouse. Kit was silent the whole way. Felix stood beside him, holding his bag. Welcome. Kit tossed his keys on the console and pulled off his jacket. Felix looked around with a professional eye. Large windows, one exit, open layout. Come on. Kit led Felix down the corridor and stopped at a door. Your room. Felix set his bag down. I get up late. Schedule's chaotic. Shoots, meetings, clubs. You're everywhere with me. 6 feet distance. No closer unless I ask, baby. Kit smirked. No one except Dami is allowed here. Fans find the address. Journalists. He broke off. Standard crap. Felix nodded once. Good. Settle in. I'll be in my room. You can visit me if you feel lonely. He smirked. Kit! He stopped but didn't turn. What? I'm here to do my job. Silence. Everyone says that on the first day. His voice went quiet, mocking. And then, we'll see, baby. He left. Around 8, Kit emerged. Black t-shirt, jeans. He went to the kitchen. How about a romantic dinner? No. Kit turned and leaned against the refrigerator. Listen, soldier, we're going to be together for 6 months. You'll have to eat. So, okay. There we go, baby. He pulled out his phone. Chinese good. Fine. He ordered, then pulled out whiskey. Drink? Not on the job. Kit smirked. Of course. Professional. He poured himself 2 fingers. Relax, Felix. I'm not going to jump you. You will. I won't. No? Kit stopped across the kitchen island. Dami probably told you about the 7 before you, how they all fell for me and lost their heads. Felix didn't answer. Silent. Smart. Kit finished his whiskey and leaned closer. But silence is also a reaction. I see how you tense when I come closer. I'm just doing my job. Of course. Kit straightened. Everyone says that. The doorbell rang. Food arrived. They ate in silence. Felix watching his plate, but he felt its eyes studying him. Kit poured more whiskey. Early shoot tomorrow, 9 a.m. Good. Kit rinsed his glass and walked toward the hallway. He stopped at his door. And Felix? He turned. Don't get used to the quiet. A smile. It's only the first day, baby. He left. Felix stared at the closed door. Night. Felix lay in darkness. Couldn't sleep. Too quiet. After barracks, streets, constant noise, the silence pressed down. A sound, muffled, from the neighboring room. Kit was singing. Melody slow, sad. Who are you? Kit Rask. Chapter 3. The Photo Shoot. The studio. Organized chaos. People and equipment everywhere. Damien was already there. Kit! He hugged him and patted his back. His hand settled on Kit's shoulder, guiding. Mr. Thorn. Felix nodded silently. Damien kept his hand on Kit's shoulder. Ready to seduce? Always, Kit answered evenly. Good. Damien squeezed his shoulder, then finally released it. Kit was led deep into the studio. Damien walked beside him, hand back on his shoulder, leaning close to whisper in his ear. Felix took his position by the wall and watched. Kit sat before a mirror. 3 people surrounded him. Makeup artist, hairstylist. He needs to be pure sin, the makeup artist said, brushing his cheekbones. Kit sat motionless, staring at his reflection with an empty gaze. Sometimes Damien approached. He touched Kit's shoulder when explaining something, ran his fingers along Kit's jawline. Felix noticed. Every time Damien touched him, Kit tensed, but he didn't pull away, didn't say anything, just endured. Let's show more skin, Damien said, his hand sliding down Kit's neck. Minutes later, Kit emerged, white shirt open to mid-chest, sleeves rolled, black jeans sitting low, dark skin glistening with oil, tattoos sharp and contrasting, hair artfully tousled, lips moist. He really looked like sin. Kit, the photographer called, waving him over. Stand against the wall, lean back. Kit approached silently, hands in pockets, hips forward, head tilted. Yes, good, give me the look. Kit looked at the camera, empty. You're giving me nothing. Damien stepped closer. Kit, you know what's needed. Kit didn't answer. Different angle, the photographer suggested. Turn around. Kit turned. The stylist pulled the shirt off his left shoulder, revealing the snake tattoo. Look over your shoulder, heavy gaze, like you're offering yourself. Kit complied, mechanically, precisely, but empty. Felix watched from his position. He saw how Kit was moved, turned, touched. The stylist adjusted the collar, lower, how Damien stood very close and slid his hand to Kit's waist, showing the curve he wanted. Kit, Damien's voice dropped. Where's the passion? Come on, dear, for me. Kit stood motionless, looking at the floor. Kit, Damien repeated. He placed his hand under Kit's chin and lifted his face gently. Show them why you're my sweet demon. Kit slowly shifted his gaze. Not to Damien, not to the camera, to Felix. Black eyes meeting green. And something changed. Kit's lips parted. His breathing grew harder, chest rising. His gaze grew heavy, full of promises. He arched his back and pushed his hips forward. His hand slid down his stomach, slowly, sensually. That's it. The photographer's voice was excited. Hold it! Kit didn't take his eyes off Felix. The show was only for him. Felix didn't move. His face was stone, but inside, something clenched, dangerous. Felix saw Damien follow Kit's gaze, turn and look at him. Something flickered across Damien's face. When it ended, Kit went behind the screen. Damien approached Felix. First impressions? Professional, Felix answered neutrally. Isn't he? Damien glanced at the screen where Kit was changing. Kit's the best I've worked with. He's unmatched. Felix stayed silent. Damien looked at him. Did you notice how he looked at you? Damien's smile widened. Either way, you're a professional, right? Won't let yourself be distracted. That's right. Good. Damien squeezed his shoulder, then released it. Kit emerged in regular clothes, face clean, hair damp, tired. Let's go, soldier, he said flatly, walking past without looking at either of them. In the car, Kit stared out the window with his glasses back on. Did you like my little performance? Kit finally broke the silence. Why did you do that? Felix asked. Kit turned his head. Even through the dark lenses, Felix felt the weight of his gaze. Did you like it? Kit asked again. That's not an answer. Kit turned back to the window. It's part of the show. For whom? For everyone. His voice dropped quieter. The camera, Damien, you. What's the difference? Everyone got what they wanted. He fell silent. And me? Felix pressed. You got a lesson. Kit pulled off his glasses and looked directly at Felix. Black eyes, cold, hard. He turned away. Chapter 4. Boundaries. A month passed, and Felix grew used to the patterns. Kit woke up chaotically, made coffee, always for himself and Felix. Kit yawned and stretched. The tank rode up, exposing dark skin and sharp muscle definition. Felix looked away. Kit took a sip. I have 3 hours at the gym, leaned his hip against the counter, and crossed his arms. The tank stretched, outlining muscles. Let me know if you're bored watching me sweat. Something flashed in Kit's eyes. The gym, private, empty. Kit in black shorts, gray sleeveless tank. Felix stood by the wall with a view of the whole gym. Kit warmed up, then moved to the punching bag. He took his stance and began to hit. Strike after strike, hard, angry, sweat on his forehead running down his temples. Felix noted the technique, professional. He noted the strength. This wasn't just a model. This was a fighter. Kit threw quick strikes, then stopped, breathing heavily. He pulled off his tank. His torso glistened with sweat, muscles defined. He caught Felix's gaze in the mirror and smirked. Staring, baby? Kit asked, still working the bag. Expected a weak influencer? Felix didn't look away. A professional. Kit grabbed water and drank. Water ran down his chin. At boxing or selling myself? Both, Felix said. Kit laughed, short and sharp, then headed to the showers. Felix stayed outside. 3 minutes passed. Kit's voice, baby, pass me a towel. Felix took a towel. Without entering, he just extended his hand inside. Kit's wet hand wrapped around his wrist, holding longer than necessary. His fingers slid across Felix's. Thanks, Kit said, his voice mocking. Could have come in. I'm not shy. Felix stepped back, I noticed. Laughter from Kit. Satisfied. You keep your distance. Smart or boring. Haven't decided yet. 5 minutes later, Kit emerged, hair wet, towel around his hips. Water drops on his chest and abs. He walked past Felix. Didn't flinch. Impressive. I'm working, Felix said. Sure, baby. The brunch with Damien revealed nothing new. Felix watched them from the nearest table and noted how often, intimately, the agent touched Kit. During this month, he'd already noticed it, but he still couldn't shake the thought that something was wrong. Damien's need to have his hand on Kit was close to obsession. And Kit, his whole body screamed against it. At public events, no one, not even Felix, could say anything was wrong. But in private, Kit didn't even try to hide it. And Damien didn't seem to care about Kit's reaction at all. The drive to the shoot was silent. So? Kit asked suddenly. Think Dami and I are His tone was challenging. Not my business. Right, Kit smirked. But you still think about it, baby. Turned to Felix. Dami doesn't touch the merchandise he's selling. He said it with bitterness. Ruins the value. Felix stayed silent. Shocked? Kit asked. That I call myself merchandise? No. Felix slowed at the traffic light and turned to look at Kit. Because you know that's not true. Otherwise, you wouldn't say it out loud. The light turned green. Felix drove on. That evening, Felix stayed in the kitchen, checking his phone. Kit emerged. He approached Felix, took the water from his hands and drank straight from the bottle. Too close. You know, baby, you're the first one who hasn't tried to fuck me by this point. Kit's hand landed on Felix's chest. Not in the job description, Felix said. A smirk played on Kit's lips. Shame. Kit took another sip and extended the bottle back. Their fingers touched. Warm. Wet. Good night, baby. Good night. The door closed quietly. Felix gripped the water bottle. The plastic cracked under pressure. Chapter 5. Nightclub. A text woke Felix at 7 a.m. from Damien. Since when did Felix become his assistant? Important evening today. Stylist at 2. Event starts at 9. I need him to be stunning. He got up and went to the kitchen. Finally, Kit's door opened. Black sweatpants, gray hoodie pulled over his head, face puffy. Dami called me. He leaned against the sink and closed his eyes. Selling me again. Kit had never openly complained. He could provoke, mock, play, but he never showed discontent. Felix stayed silent. Fine, I'm a demon. He rubbed his face. The stylist arrived at 2. Kit tried several options. He looked at Felix after each one. Mesh shirt, tattoos visible, several silver chains, neck, waist. Kit looked at his reflection. Merchandise ready. Kit turned to Felix. Don't you find this disgusting? Felix met his gaze. You're doing a job. Kit headed to his room. Sure, baby. Kit sat in the back seat, fully in character. Dark eyeliner, lips glistening, shimmer on his cheekbones, hair styled. Leather pants, rings, massive boots. Sweet demon himself. He pulled a flask from his jacket and took a sip of whiskey. He grimaced. His voice was quiet. Everyone looks, touches. Then why go? Business. He closed the flask. Good merchandise maintains its brand. Felix was silent. Kit looked at him in the rearview mirror. Their eyes met. I like you, baby. A small smile. You don't try to comfort me with cheap words. VIP entrance. Loud music. Neon lights. Kit, dear. Damien's hand settled on his lower back. Again. You're magnificent. Damien introduced him around. Kit played the role, smiled, flirted, seduced. Felix watched Kit turn into a product. The person disappeared, only the image remained. Soon a man approached Kit, expensive suit. He said something. Kit smiled back, playfully. The man moved closer. Kit laughed, throwing back his head, showing his neck. The man pulled him closer, leaned to his ear, whispering. Felix's jaw tightened. Kit caught his gaze over the man's shoulder. Something changed in Kit's face. He pulled away, gently but firmly. He said something and headed to the bar. To Felix. Tequila, the bartender poured. Kit drank it down. You didn't like it? He asked quietly. Felix was silent. Kit turned and looked at him, eyes glistening. You're free to do what you want. Yeah? Kit leaned closer. And if I want him, you won't stop me. Only if I sense danger. Kit looked at him, seconds of silence despite the music. It's always dangerous if I go with someone. His voice went flat. Felix looked directly at him. Then I'll stop you. Kit exhaled. Something in his face softened. He pushed off. You're guarding me. Kit took his wrist. It's safer to guard me up close in this crowd. Kit turned his back and pulled Felix's hands to his waist, under the chains, onto the mesh. Hold me so I don't get lost. Felix held on. He felt Kit's warmth through the mesh. Every curve, every breath. Kit pressed back closer. His head rested on Felix's shoulder. His lips were at Felix's ear. See how everyone's watching? Felix felt the stares. They like it. Kit's voice was low. They like watching me belong to someone. They imagine what you'll do to me later. Felix's hands tightened. Kit pressed closer. Then someone shoved Kit, hard, rough. He flinched. Felix caught him. A drunk guy, wide face, grinning. He reached for Kit, hand on his arm. Come on, baby. Kit tried to pull away. The guy didn't let go. He pulled him closer. Felix moved. His hand clamped on the guy's wrist. Iron grip. He twisted, fast and professional. The guy cried out and bent over. The guy looked up, angry but overwhelmed by pain. "It's his job." Felix squeezed harder. The guy groaned. "Apologize." "God, fine, sorry." Felix released him. The guy collapsed. Club security came running. Felix turned to Kit and took his hand. "We're leaving." Cold air hit their faces. Kit leaned against the wall and covered his face with his hands. Felix stood nearby but didn't touch him. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Kit shook his head. "I'm tired, Felix." His voice was muffled. Felix took a step closer. Kit lowered his hands and looked at him, eyes wet, eyeliner smudged. Felix held his gaze. Something changed in Kit's face, the tension leaving. "Let's go home," Felix said quietly. Chapter 6. The game continues. Felix woke to music drifting from the kitchen. Kit stood at the stove, wearing nothing but black shorts. His back was to Felix. He turned, no trace of yesterday's vulnerability. "Good morning, baby." His voice was light and playful. Felix leaned against the doorframe. "You okay?" "Why wouldn't I be?" He plated the eggs. "Someone protected me yesterday." A glance over his shoulder. That was hot. He set the plate in front of Felix and leaned close. "Want to know what I thought?" Kit's voice dropped low. "I thought about how your hands would look on me, but not in public." He straightened and grabbed his own plate. Felix ate in silence. He could feel Kit's gaze. "Good eggs," Felix said finally. "I'm good at many things, baby," Kit replied. He stood, carried the plates to the sink, gave that smirk, and left. Felix stayed where he was, his hands clenched. "What game are you playing, Kit?" At noon, Damien called. Video. "I've been getting calls from the club," he said. "The client was attacked," Felix said quietly. "It was flirtation, Mr. Thorn." "I was groped, dummy," Kit said sharply. Damien studied Kit. "It's part of the job," Damien said finally. "People look at you, want you, touch you." "This is different," Kit said. Damien exhaled. "Fine, but no more incidents." He looked at Felix. "And Kit, we both know how this ends." The screen went dark. Kit looked at Felix. "He knows." "What?" "That I want you," Kit said bluntly. "Kit, stop playing games." "Who says I'm playing?" Kit's voice went low. "Maybe I'm serious." "Then stop with the provocation." "What if it's all I have?" Kit asked quietly. "It's not." "How would you know?" Felix held his gaze. "Because if all you needed was provocation, you would have stuck with the previous 7. They all broke, but you're still here, still playing with me, because I don't break. And that pisses you off and turns you on." Kit stared at him. Something shifted in his expression. Slowly, he smiled. "Maybe." "Not maybe," Felix said. "Definitely." Damien's penthouse. The party was in full swing. Felix slipped out onto the balcony. Cold wind. The city spread below. "Mr. Thorn." Damien appeared in the doorway with a cigar in hand. "Join me." He walked to the railing and took a drag. Felix stayed a few meters back with his hands in his pockets. "You've lasted longer than any of them," Damien said. "Impressive." "I'm just doing my job." Damien's smile had an edge. "I've known Kit for a very long time. I created him, made him sweet demon." Another drag. "He loves to play, to provoke, to break people. It's in his nature." "And you're already broken," Damien said. "You just don't see it yet." Felix stayed silent. "When you finally snap, and you will, I'll fire you. Nothing personal." He turned back toward the door and paused at the threshold. "Oh, and Mr. Thorn? Kit will never belong to anyone." He went inside. Felix stayed where he was, staring at the city, his hands clenched. They got home late. Kit was drunk, not heavily, but enough to notice. Felix stayed in the living room. He took off his jacket, unbuttoned the top buttons of his shirt, went to the bar, and poured whiskey. He drank it down and poured another. The sound of a door opening. "Wow," Kit said slowly. "Something wrong, baby." He walked over, took the glass right out of Felix's hands, and finished what was left. "Dummy talk to you?" Felix looked at him. "What did he say?" Kit's lips curved. "Let me guess." He grabbed the bottle and poured for both of them. "That I'm dangerous, that I break people, that I'll never belong to anyone. And you believed him?" "I believe you're dangerous," Felix said. Kit raised his glass. "You're right about that." He drank. I am dangerous. I do break people. Want to know why? He set the glass down. Because they let me. They come in thinking they'll save me, or have me, or both. He moved closer and stopped right in front of Felix. Then they realize I don't want to be saved, and that touching me isn't the same as having me. His gaze was direct, hard. What about you, soldier? You want to save me? Felix met his eyes and didn't look away. No. Want to touch me? Yes. Complete honesty. Kit went still. He hadn't expected that. But I won't, Felix continued. Why not? Because you want me to. Because it would prove you're right, that everyone's the same. Kit said nothing. And I won't give you that satisfaction. Felix picked up his glass and finished it. He walked past Kit toward his room, stopped near the door, but didn't turn around. Good night. He went inside and closed the door. Felix lay in the dark. He couldn't sleep. Footsteps in the hallway. They stopped outside his door. A voice. You're right. Felix didn't move. I do want you to snap, because it would be easier that way, but you don't. And that pisses me off. Scares me too. Because if you're not like the rest of them, what does that mean? Felix stood, walked to the door, and stood on the other side. He pressed his palm against the wood. Good night, Felix. The footsteps retreated. Felix stayed there with his hand on the door. The game continues, but the rules are changing. For him, for Kit. Maybe they'd both already lost. Chapter 7. Playing Equals. After that night, something shifted. Kit still provoked, still played, but he'd stopped trying to break Felix and started enjoying having him around. Kit stood at the stove, wearing only black boxers. His back was to the door. The snake tattoo on his left shoulder seemed to dance with him. Felix leaned against the doorframe. Morning show's getting predictable. Kit turned with a smile on his face, not mocking. Predictable? Want variety? His hands moved to the waistband of his boxers. Felix walked past him to the coffee machine, completely unfazed. Do what you want. I'm looking at the coffee machine. Kit laughed. Real laughter. No edge to it. You're learning, baby. I have a good teacher, Felix said. The coffee was ready. Felix pulled out 2 cups. Kit set the plate in front of Felix and leaned close. And how good is your teacher? Felix took a bite. Good enough. Kit sat across from him, still smiling. Know what I like about you? My ability to ignore your provocations. No, your ability to answer them. Kit started eating. Much more fun. Felix finished his coffee. I'm just doing my job. Your job is guarding me, not flirting back. Flirting's in the extended service package, Felix said. Kit laughed, loudly, throwing his head back. Something warm spread through Felix's chest. Their usual gym. Kit warmed up. Felix watched from the wall. Kit stopped, breathing hard. He pulled off his tank and tossed it aside. His torso glistened with sweat. He caught Felix's gaze. Show me a move. Kit dropped his gloves. Want to know how you'd hold me if I actually fought back? Felix pushed off the wall. Kit came at him, fast and sharp. Felix read it. He caught Kit's wrist, twisted, and pushed his shoulder. Kit lost his balance but didn't fall. He slipped free and shoved Felix back, stronger than he looked. They both went down on the mat. Felix ended up on top, hands pinning Kit's wrists above his head. Full control. Kit lay beneath him, breathing hard, lips parted, sweat gleaming on his collarbones. He tested the hold, arched up, pushed with his hips. Felix held him tighter. Dangerous. Bodies pressed together, the sound of their breathing. Kit stopped struggling and just stared up at him. Like being on top? Sometimes. Kit's voice went quiet. What if I asked you to let go? Then ask, Felix whispered. Their faces were too close. Let me go, Felix. Felix released him. Instantly, he stood and held out his hand. Kit took it, his palm hot and damp. Felix pulled him to his feet easily. Kit didn't let go right away. He stood there, holding on, staring at their joined hands. You always do what I ask. Only when you ask nicely, Felix said. Kit smiled and let go. He headed toward the showers. Felix stayed on the mat and looked down at his palm. He could still feel the warmth. A photo shoot. Damien stood near the monitors. Kit emerged from makeup and went behind the screen in the corner of the studio. A minute later, his voice called out, Felix, I need help. Felix walked over and went behind the screen. It was a narrow space. Kit stood shirtless, holding a white shirt. Can't reach the buttons and back. Felix took the shirt and helped him into it. His fingers slid across Kit's bare skin, working the buttons one by one. Kit's eyes closed. Then he looked at Felix over his shoulder. You're hot, Felix said quietly. Noticed? Kit's voice held that smirk. Thanks. From the lights, Felix clarified, fastening the last button. Done. Kit turned. In the tight space behind the screen, they ended up close. Too close. Kit studied his face. They stood like that for several seconds, close enough to feel each other's breath. Then Kit smiled and stepped out from behind the screen. Damien had seen their silhouettes through the semi-transparent fabric. He'd seen how close they were. He'd seen how long they stood there. Something tightened in his chest. Something cold. A week later, Damien asked Kit to come to his office, alone. What's this about? Kit sat in the chair. Damien walked slowly around the office with his hands in his pockets. I've been watching you with Mr. Thorn. You're attached to him. We've worked together for months, Kit said calmly. Of course we're comfortable. It's more than comfort. Damien stopped. I want you to fire him. Kit stood. No, it's not a request. And it's not your decision, Kit said. His voice was hard. Damien stepped closer. Kit, all your previous bodyguards fell for you and crossed boundaries. Felix will too. He's not like that. 4 months, and he hasn't tried anything. Maybe he's just more patient, Damien said softly. More strategic. Kit frowned. What? Damien leaned forward. He makes you feel comfortable, makes you want him. You want his presence, approval, attention. The words started sinking in. Something cold crept down Kit's spine. All the previous ones tried to get you, Damien said. Felix makes it so you give yourself to him. Kit's face stayed blank, but something shifted in his eyes. Doubt. Small. Almost invisible. But there. You're wrong, Kit said finally. I hope so. Damien sat back down, but think about it. Kit walked to the door, stopped, and turned. Even if you're right, even if it's a trick, I still like him. In the hallway, Kit stopped and leaned against the wall. His hands trembled, barely noticeable. The doubt followed him out. Quiet, cold. Chapter 8. Trust. A month passed without Felix noticing. For him, it was business as usual. The routine had become comfortable. Morning coffee, gym, photo shoots. Kit would provoke. Felix would answer back. A game they both enjoyed. For Kit, it was torture. Every single day. Every joke. Every smile. No one could tell he was being torn apart inside, but the doubt kept growing, like a tumor. How much longer is he going to wait before he makes a move? Or will he never make one? Just waiting for me to offer myself up. Kit was so tired. 2 a.m. He couldn't sleep. Again. A whole month of doubt eating him alive. He sat up and dragged his hands down his face. Enough! I need to know. Now. He walked to his closet and pulled out a robe. Burgundy silk. Floor length. He stripped off and put it on. If Damien's right, Felix will take what I'm offering. If he's wrong, he left his room. The hallway was dark. Kit walked to Felix's door and hesitated. He opened it slowly. Felix sat propped against the headboard, reading. He looked up and froze. Kit? Surprise. Nothing else. Kit came closer and stopped at the edge of the bed. Felix set his book down, his eyes never leaving Kit. Something wrong? Kit sat on the edge of the bed. No, I realized something. That you're different. His hand settled on Felix's knee. A light touch, warm through the thin fabric. You never pushed, never tried anything. He leaned closer. Their faces were dangerously close. You don't have to wait anymore. Felix tensed. Kit felt it. I know you want this. Kit's other hand moved to Felix's chest. He felt his heart racing. I've seen how you look at me. He shifted closer, practically in Felix's lap. You don't have to hold back. His voice dropped. Fingers reached for the belt of his robe. Felix's hand shot out and caught his wrist in a firm grip. Wait! His voice wasn't desire. It was worry. Kit froze and stared at Felix, confused. Felix studied him carefully. Something wasn't right. What happened? Felix asked quietly. Kit blinked. Nothing. Kit. Felix caught his chin and forced him to meet his eyes. The look was hard. What happened? Did someone say something to you? His grip tightened. Not painful, but unyielding. There was no desire in his voice, just protective rage, barely leashed, and worry. Real worry. Something warm bloomed in Kit's chest. He looked at Felix, the concern in those green eyes. Damien was wrong. A smile spread across Kit's face. Calm. Real. Felix frowned. Kit, what? Kit didn't let him finish. He surged forward and kissed him. Not a tease. Not a game. His hand slid to the back of Felix's neck, gripping, holding him there, taking control. Kit deepened the kiss deliberately. Felix went still with surprise. Then he kissed back. His hands found Kit's waist, gripped through the silk, and pulled him closer. Kit pushed harder. Felix fell back against the pillows. Kit followed him down, its hand locked on Felix's neck, keeping him exactly where Kit wanted. Felix made a low sound. Kit pulled back slowly. He looked down at Felix, pupils blown. Felix stared up at him, lost. Kit. Kit smiled, pleased. He climbed off and stood. Good night, Felix. He headed for the door. What? Felix pushed up on his elbows. Wait. Kit stopped and looked back over his shoulder. You really are different. Another smile, and you've seen the real me. Think about it. He left and closed the door. Felix lay staring at the ceiling. His heart was pounding. What the hell just happened? Morning. Kit was already in the kitchen. He turned when he heard footsteps. His whole face lit up. Good morning. Felix walked over cautiously and sat down. Kit handed him coffee. Then he leaned down and kissed Felix's temple. Quick, easy, casual, like they'd always done this. Kit, about last night. Kit looked at him directly. I figured it out. You're real. Felix frowned. What? You didn't take advantage. You just wanted to make sure I was okay. And that means, thank you. The smile came back. I'm done with the games. Felix blinked. Kit stood and walked past him, his hand trailing across Felix's shoulder. No more games. I just want to be with you. I don't want to break you anymore. I just want permission to be real with you too. He disappeared into the living room. Was that a confession? Did Kit just... That evening, Felix washed dishes. Kit came up behind him and braced his hands on the counter on either side, boxing him in. Felix turned his head. Their faces were close. You're very controlled, Kit said softly. Felix went still. I try. Kit smiled. Can't you see this is real? Not sweet demon, just me. Yesterday you saw both sides. The game and the real thing. If you'd rather keep things the way they were, we can. But if you want the real me... He leaned in and kissed Felix's neck. Felix's breath caught. Kit kissed higher, just under his jaw. Felix's hands curled into fists. Kit. Another kiss below his ear, pressed closer from behind. Felix turned sharply. They were nose to nose. Felix studied him for a long moment. This was Kit. Not a victim, not a seduction. Just a man saying what he wanted, showing who he really was. Strong, assertive, in control. Felix opened his door and went in first. Last chance to walk away. Kit smirked. You should be saying that to yourself, soldier. He stepped forward, fisted Felix's shirt, and yanked him into a kiss. Hungry, desperate. Months of tension breaking loose. Hands everywhere. Felix pulled back and looked at the warm brown skin. Do you like what you see? Kit's voice was rough. Felix made a low sound and pushed Kit toward the bed. Kit woke first and lay on his side, watching Felix sleep. There were marks on his skin. Scratches on his shoulders. Kit smiled and traced his finger over the mark on Felix's collarbone. Felix stirred. His eyes opened slowly, heavy with sleep. He saw Kit and smiled, lazy, satisfied. Morning. His voice was rough. Morning, Kit said quietly. He shifted closer and kissed Felix's shoulder. Felix's arm pulled him in tight. You okay? Yeah. Kit closed his eyes. You? Felix held him tighter. You're not my first guy. They lay in silence, just breathing. Then Kit said quietly, You're my first, totally first. But you, Felix stopped. I've been under contract with Dami since I was 15. I can't have real relationships, and I never wanted to before anyway. Felix looked into those dark eyes. Now Kit was the one protecting what they had. So, we'll figure something out? We'll figure something out. Chapter 9. Danger. A week passed, the best week of Felix's life. Kit was different now. No more games, no more sweet demon, just Kit. Warm, funny, genuine. They were careful in public and kept their professional distance, but anyone watching closely could see the shift. The way Kit's eyes found Felix, the way Felix's hand lingered just a fraction too long when steadying him. Damien saw it clearest of all. Kit played his role perfectly, charmed, smiled, worked the room like the professional he was, but his eyes kept finding Felix. Kit excused himself from a conversation. He walked straight to Felix. He reached up. His hand settled on Felix's jaw. Firm, sure. Felix didn't move. Kit's hand cupped his face. Felix's hand came up to cover Kit's. He turned his head slightly and pressed his lips to Kit's palm. Brief, private. Kit's breath caught. Needed to see you, he said quietly. His voice was low. then walked back to the crowd. Damien stood frozen. He'd seen everything. This wasn't Sweet Demon, not the carefully crafted creation he'd spent 10 years molding. No performance, no facade, just Kit, the real Kit. So, he murmured to himself, my boy's finally grown up. His fingers tightened on his glass. Am I already too late? He pulled out his phone. An hour later, Damien found Kit alone on the balcony. Kit, I need to show you something. My office. Kit turned. Now? Just 5 minutes. It's important. Kit hesitated and glanced back into the ballroom. Felix was talking to someone, but his eyes were tracking Kit's every move. All right, 5 minutes. Damien's hand settled on Kit's lower back again, guiding him down the corridor. Felix saw them leave. Every instinct screamed wrong. He excused himself and followed. Damien's office, dimly lit, intimate. He closed the door behind them. Drink? Kit stayed by the door. You said you had something to show me? Damien poured whiskey without answering. He drank, then turned. 10 years, Kit. He stepped closer. I've given you everything. Made you a star. His hand landed on Kit's chest. Don't I deserve some gratitude? Kit grabbed his wrist. Don't. His voice went cold. Damien didn't step back. Why? Because of him? He moved closer. Kit's back hit the wall. He'll leave when the contract ends. I won't. His hand moved to Kit's face. You've always belonged to me. You always will. He leaned in. The door exploded open. Felix filled the doorway. His face was stone. He saw it all. Damien too close, hand on Kit's face, lips inches from his. In 3 strides, he had Damien's shoulder in his grip and yanked him back. Not rough, just absolutely final. Dangerous. Damien stumbled and caught himself. This is assault. Felix stepped between them. We're leaving. He turned to Kit. Felix held out his hand. Kit took it. Damien's face twisted. You're fired. Effective immediately. You can't fire me. I just did. Kit stepped forward. No, you didn't. Damien turned. What? You're not the agency. My contract's with them, not you. Kit's voice stayed steady, ice cold. And if you push this, I'll terminate our management contract and find someone else. Damien went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. Kit squeezed Felix's hand. At the door, Kit stopped and turned back. And Dami, I never belonged to you. They left. Damien sat alone at his desk and poured more whiskey. 3 days of silence. Wednesday afternoon, Kit's phone rang. Damien, a photo shoot. Summer surprise for the magazine. They'd provide their own security. It couldn't be refused. A car would pick Kit up. Felix walked in. I don't like this. Me neither. Kit crossed to him. But if I refuse without a good reason. Felix pulled him close. Call me the second you get there, and the second you're done. They kissed, long, like goodbye. Kit left. 3 p.m., no call. 3:30, nothing. Felix called. The phone went straight to unavailable. He called the studio at the address Damien had given him. Closed for renovations all week. Ice shot down his spine. It's a trap. Felix grabbed his laptop. His fingers flew across the keys. Last GPS location, Brooklyn industrial area. Then the signal died. He grabbed his jacket and checked his gun. He used old military contacts to track the car. A black sedan sat in the driveway. He parked a block away and approached on foot. He found a basement window and picked the lock in seconds. The basement was empty. Voices drifted down from upstairs. Damien's voice, Kit's voice, strained but alive. Felix climbed to the 2nd floor. The voices grew clearer. You understand, this could have been different. Let me go, Dami. I can't. You're mine. You always were. I'm no one's. Wrong. I created you, made you everything you are. Without me, you're nothing. That bodyguard of yours won't find you here. Felix always finds me. Damien laughed, bitter and sharp, touching, but naive. Felix stepped back from the door. He took a breath, kicked. The door exploded inward. Felix burst through. Kit was tied to a chair, hands behind his back, legs bound tight. Damien spun around. Felix crossed the space in 3 strides. Punch to the solar plexus. Damien folded like paper. He went down. Felix dropped to his knees in front of Kit. You okay? Yeah. He untied the ropes as fast as he could. Kit's wrists were red and angry. Kit stood up but swayed immediately. Felix caught him. He pulled Kit close for just a second. Let's get you out of here. He took his hand. Outside, Felix pulled Kit close. He checked him over carefully, his face, his arms, looking for any sign of injury. Did he hurt you? Kit shook his head. He just tied me up, talked, kept saying you wouldn't find me, that I'd never get away. Felix cupped his face gently. You don't belong to anyone, only yourself. The next morning at the police station, Kit sat across from a detective with Felix right beside him. He told them everything. Damien's assault attempt, the fake photo shoot, the kidnapping. By 6 p.m., Damien Holt was in handcuffs. Charges: kidnapping, unlawful detention, attempted sexual assault. The media exploded within the hour. Kit's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Home on the couch, Kit curled up in Felix's arms with his head resting on Felix's chest. Kit spoke quietly. I signed a new contract. Time to let Sweet Demon grow up. He glanced up with a smirk. Same brand, but my vision, and honestly, I don't even mind the sexy public persona anymore. He kissed Felix. Strong, sure, powerful. Because now everyone's going to know I'm taken by my bodyguard. Everyone? Welcome to the team, baby. That familiar smirk. You ready to make this official? Felix pulled him closer and kissed him properly. I'm exactly where I want to be. Kit smiled against his lips. Good, because you're stuck with me now. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Yes, sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Too late.